Dr. Anita Winter, president of Gamarall Foundation and woman behind this exhibition, and her husband, Dr. Herbert Winter, president of the Jewish community in Switzerland and vice president of the World Jewish Congress, could not be here with us today, since sadly, Anita's father, Mr. Walter Strauss, passed away just a night ago at the age of 97. Mr. Strauss was a Holocaust survivor, and his passing reminds us yet again how important it is that we carry on telling the story of the Holocaust as they sadly leave the stage. As the saying of the Gamarall Foundation says, tomorrow may be too late. Anita has asked us to read her words to you, and I invite Alexa Asher of the Weiss Lignite International Center to read her greeting.
Excellencies, Excellencies, Presidents, Kavod Rabbanim, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and let me particularly and very warmly greet and welcome with deep respect and gratitude all of the Holocaust survivors who made the effort to come here to this event. It is a great honor and privilege for me to be here at the opening of our exhibition, The Last Swiss Holocaust Survivors. Standing here as a daughter of 2 Holocaust refugees and talking about the Holocaust, I am overwhelmed by very strong emotions. Allow me to start with a short story. November 8, 1938, Berlin, 80 years ago. A Jewish boy lived through Kristallnacht. Alone, hiding in a closet, full of fear, his parents already far away. On the next day, he walked through the streets of Berlin and saw the destroyed and looted Jewish shops and torched synagogues. He went to the Swiss embassy because his mother had been Swiss prior to her marriage, and therefore he had hoped that he may have the possibility to emigrate to Switzerland. But at the embassy, he was sent away with the words, "Jews, we do not want." After some time, he did finally succeed to enter Switzerland, like many other Jews who found protection in Switzerland. And despite a lot of problems and many adversities, he escaped the destiny of the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. That boy was my father. At around the same time, SS troops stormed an apartment in Nuremberg, another town in Germany. The SS arrested everyone there in order to deport them, except for a woman named Rosa, her little girl, and her new baby boy, whom we left behind. On the next day, Rosa was arrested and brought to the police station. There, Rosa was abused, and you'll forgive me, but I cannot talk about what happened to her there. But with many miracles, Rosa, the little girl, and the baby all survived the war. The little girl was hidden by farmers in a nunnery under a false name. Her name was Margit Fern. Her false identity was Marguerite Fontaine. The little girl is my mother, and Rosa was my grandmother. Had Hitler been completely successful in carrying out his diabolic genocidal plan, I would not be standing here in front of you today. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, it is for me a big honor and privilege to show our exhibition here in Israel. There is probably no place which is more symbolic to present the portraits, texts, and videos of the last witnesses than here. Haifa is an extremely emotional place for me personally, because Haifa was the place where my mother, Margit, after the war, stepped for the first time on the land of Israel. In a book, she described the crossing to Israel as follows, quote, "As soon as the ship departed, then silence changed into a loud, happy feast as I have never seen it again in my life. It was a feast full of joy and power, and many grabbed a little vodka bottle out of the luggage. The next day, however, all of them were sick, but the difference to the earlier times was that all of us were happy," end quote. After having arrived in Israel, Margit and her family were moved to Amah Baranya, Haifa. Although they lived in great poverty, they were happy as never before. The camp was full of people, many of whom were searching for relatives who they hoped had also survived. The trauma of a lost family is something that most of the witnesses in our exhibition also talk about. Edward Kornfeld, for example, whose entire family was murdered in the gas chambers. Amongst them, all of his siblings, the youngest one, Rachel, was just 4 years old. The stories of our witnesses remind us of the worst that human beings can do to other human beings, but they also remind us of what's good and right in times of inhumanity. For example, my mother was saved by Christian people who, by doing so, risked their own lives. Or the example of my father, whose life was saved by a federal council member. I cannot tell you in words how thankful I am to my country of Switzerland for saving the life of my father. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2008, the former Secretary General of the United Nations said, and I quote, "We must pass on the legacies of the Holocaust to future generations." He was so right. Our exhibition attempts to do exactly this. We interviewed the last witnesses who live in all parts of Switzerland to tell us, once again, their story and literally bear witness. For many of them, it was so difficult to talk. But thousands of visitors have already seen the exhibition, and I am convinced that all of them have been sensibilized. They understand what exclusion, intolerance, xenophobia, and anti-Semitism mean. Nobody who sees and hears accounts of the horrors of the Holocaust can remain indifferent. That is the power of storytelling of the Holocaust, and we are convinced that this is the chance for the future. At this very point in time, when the last contemporary witnesses die on us, we must strengthen the remembrance work. We owe it to the victims, but we also owe it to the younger generations and future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, before I close, let me express my warmest thanks to the Swiss Foreign Ministry for their enormous support of our exhibition and their tireless efforts in the 2017-18 chairmanship of IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. My thanks also go to Ambassador Ruch, Yael Villers, Yael Grenot, Shunit Murmelstein, and Anat Weiner for their dedication in organizing our exhibition here in Haifa. Let me end with my following thoughts. It is important to remember, never to forget, never to be indifferent, and never to be silent, never. Thank you so much. This is my conviction from the bottom of my heart.